I have been doing wrestling reviews since 2012. And I'm not telling you I know everything about wrestling, but I can tell you I know wrestling. You see the title of this video. Oh, you know I'm going to rant. Motherfuckers, I'm going to rant, and you may not like it. Now, mind you, I am going to review this right now. I'm reviewing it. I'm going to review this show for what was viewable. But when I'm done, and this may not take long, but when I am done, oh, you're going to expect a fucking rant from me. And if anybody from Impact Wrestling sees this, I don't care if they like me or not. I am going to be brutally honest. And they're going to have to either take it or not. It's up to them, just like you. You can either take me or not. So, opening. Marcia Samovich versus Jordynne Grace. We get a rematch. Now, mind you, rematch was fine. We know these women can work together. And as we already know, because now that we've seen a lot more of Marcia Samovich, she still kind of tanks by the middle part of the match. To a certain extent, she tanks. It's obvious, she does. But I will not say these women do not wrestle very well. They wrestle well. People in the venue loved it. And I'm not against that. But tell me if I'm wrong. What did I tell you a while ago about Marcia Samovich? What did I say? They built her up like a monster, but never properly booked her while doing it. And that there was going to be a point where she was going to be here, and then drop, and then drop. Look what's happening now. She just had a rematch with Jordynne Grace. And she lost again. She cannot win. No matter how much people like a Marcia Samovich. And I'm not against her. I never was. I said it myself. She was interesting. But then they took away her music because of your Cream War. Then when they could have adjusted and maybe changed how they were going to book her, they didn't. They let her kill people from the outside. In other words, independent wrestlers coming into Impact Wrestling, the only ones that would be allowed to job for her. But then there was no character development and there was no proper booking when she went up against the people that she went up against. That when it mattered, she lost. Every time. She lost when it was important. And now she's going up against Jordynne Grace again after what happened in Hardcore War, and she loses again. Now, yes, Killer Kelly did say she found herself a playmate, and she wants to play. Now, mind you, they will do a series of matches between Killer Kelly and Marcia Samovich, which will be good. But in the end, whether she wins or loses, the booking for her is going to just be here. She went from being here to being here. Now, many people will say, well, that's how you go up and down the card. Well, that counts if you stay long enough to go back up. Because look what happened to Killer Kross. What happened to Morrissey. Not saying that it was perfect for Morrissey or Killer Kross. Killer Kross got hurt. Then when he came back, they didn't have anything for him to do. Same thing with Morrissey to a certain extent. He didn't stay very long. Of course, he didn't sign a very long contract. And they didn't really have much with him. I'm sure if they had something for him and they offered him money, Morrissey would have stayed. But he didn't. Didn't pretty much have much for him. Even though probably his contract was up. It was probably not a year contract. But still, I don't expect Marcia to stay very long. There's a very strong chance if she does stay, she'll still be exactly as where she is, unless they have no choice but to use her. I'm just saying. Next, PCO versus, well, let's make it clear. When we got the, how can I say this? Was it good with Steve Macklin? It was fine. Calling out PCO. PCO comes out, and they're about to fight, or possibly have a match, and then we got Champagne Singh, or Raj, and Shira attack him, and Macklin walks away. Either he paid them, or they just did it on their own, doesn't matter. And the Director of Authority wanted a match for the Canadian fans. So we get PCO versus Champagne, where he gets destroyed. And then we get a Santino Marella getting whacked. And now we're going to get a Detective Dango. This is why I wish Tyler Breeze was back with him. They were Breezango, and they were more entertaining. And I'm sorry, my friend, the one who really loves Johnny Swinger, which I'll be talking about next, Dirty Dango, if he was with Tyler Breeze, Matthew, I can't remember his last name, they'll be more entertaining than Johnny Swinger and Ziggy Dice. I'm sorry. That's just my point of view. Of course, you see things differently. You got perfect right to see it that way. I am going to talk about Johnny in a moment because I said exactly what was going to happen. But there was a twist to it. But by my perspective, what they did on SmackDown was way more entertaining than anything we've seen in years. Other than Swinger in Wrestle House 2. But that was with Swinger and a whole bunch of other people, including seeing Chris Sabin glistening after taking a shower without a shirt on. And who was the one who started staring? I forgot who it was. It was someone who was staring and could not stop looking at him. I can't remember, but you know who I'm talking about. Let's move on. The Swinger segment. The road to 50, where he's got 0 wins and maybe 3 or 4 losses. The El Dimacchio, I believe that's who it was. We get Johnny Swinger coming out with Ziggy Dice. Ziggy says, I am here with Swinger. We're going to get him on the 50 to the road, daddy. And what happens? He said, we get the director authority allowing this match as long as the person who did it didn't have to get paid or had to have any travel expenses done by the company. I took care of it. I'll go get him. And we get, and he's in my face. I believe I got a shot of him. There he is. Dimacchio. I can't pronounce his name. It don't matter. He basically jobbed the Swinger. And guess what? Everyone was happy in there cheering for Swinger before the match, cheering for Swinger after the match. He won. Swinger's so happy. And I'm sure, my friend, you're so happy. At least until, guess what? The director authority questioned the luchador. He was a luchador, supposedly. He spoke a little Spanish to him, and he's going, And then he knew once Swinger pulled up the mask, he was faking it, and the win is no mas, no match. Basically, there's no win. And guess what? Johnny Swinger and Ziggy Dice have now parted ways because Swinger, baby, is done with him. I guess Impact Wrestling decided, unless they're going to do a new angle with Johnny Swinger and Ziggy Dice, they're done with the road to 50. I'm sure my friend is still trying to plan what can be done for Johnny Swinger to get 50 to go up against Steve Macklin and possibly win. I can't stop him from imagining, and I would not. He loves Johnny Swinger. He has the right to love Johnny Swinger. But as a wrestling reviewer, an honest reviewer who actually thinks Johnny Swinger's funny, no matter if anybody else does, I do see him funny. He's a comedic wrestler. They have to be in pro wrestling. If anyone thinks that they shouldn't be in there, you should see the times when the most best segments of pro wrestling from WCW or WWE or ECW was comedic work when it's done correctly. I'm not saying they've been doing it correctly with him. Wrestle House was hilarious when it came to Johnny Swinger's part, and that was Wrestle House 2. They did it in the most over-the-top, landish ways. It was so bad, it was stupidly funny. But here, when they could literally be taking tabs on how many times Swinger's lost, and that the only thing you need is one win, and then he would get that, if that's where they're still going. I do believe that's what they did with Curt Hawkins, even though Vince wanted to do it and Brian Myers did not. From what I understand, this is what we're going to get. Now, let's move on. What do we got here? No title match. This is a non-title match when it comes to the design versus ABC. Let's put this in perspective. ABC has been hot for a while now. When it came to Ace and Bay, we know they've been doing well. They did well in New Japan. They've been getting a lot of pops here as well in the States. There's been no problem. They've been getting pops in Canada. People like them. And when they went up against the design, and the design did have a vid pack basically saying they're angry at Sammy, how could you betray me? And that's what Diener did. They have this match, which I can't agree with. As I've said before, why did they go there? There was no point in this. They had a great opportunity to let Sammy stay with the design, but win over Angels and Khan, and force Diener either to leave to be the retired design and the new design being Sammy, or Diener losing his position because Khan and it just pisses me off that they did the typical WWE light thing where they look like they're going to go there, but then they just do it as they always do it. When it looks like Sammy or Chris Bay or anyone else looks like they're going to go through with it, they don't. And it would be a nice change if they did. And they didn't. I don't agree with it. I think they made a serious mistake. And this is what we got. Yes, Sammy did attack Diener afterward. But what are we going to gain from this? Diener promised that Allen is going to destroy him with Khan, and that didn't happen. Did they look good in the match? Of course. Both teams look all right. But still, it doesn't help the story between Diener and Sammy. I'm just saying. Now, let's see here. I'm trying to remember if I forgot anything. Am I forgetting anything? Yes. Jody Threat versus Sparks. You know the reason I forgot this? Here's the problem. Even if Jody Sparks is going to be working with Impact for a while, we don't really got much from her. We see Sparks. Interesting, but she didn't last long. I knew she was going to get destroyed because Jody Threat, not Sparks. Sorry, I'm getting them mixed up. I think it's because Jody doesn't feel like a face. She feels like a heel. Jody Threat, even though they're saying, there's the threat. The threat is right there. As they were yelling, and I can't remember what they said. Of Jody Threat and her last name. But the problem is she feels like a heel. She doesn't feel like a face. She's a headbanger, yeah. She loves heavy metal, yeah. But there's nothing there for me. She's not a face. She's a heel. She gives off the feeling of a heel. She looks like a heel. And she's working as a face. And there's nothing there. Even if she signs a contract with Impact Wrestling, if they just made her a heel from the outset, there would be something there. I think they should have made her a heel. Honestly. But that's just me. You guys tell me below. Next. We got a BTI shot, which was very rare. They rarely show BTI. They showed Kenny King with Decker, and him beating him. And then they showed Decker giving respect to Kenny and saying, thank you, I learned a lot. He showed respect, but Kenny just said, of course, because I'll whoop that ass. He acted like Kenny King would. And then I believe that was, what was the guy's name? I don't think his name was Jeans. I think it was Knight. I believe that's the new guy that was there. I think I've only seen him once so far, or twice. This is the first time I've seen him in a backstage segment. If it's either, I don't think it's Gene. I think it's Knight. I can't remember his name fully. His name is Knight something. Guys can tell me below. But Kenny gave him some props, saying that a lot of people are talking about you and saying that you're just like me. But you shouldn't be like me. You should be like you. But I can help you to look like you if you let me help you. You do you, but I can help you to do you. So pretty much Kenny King is trying to set him up to use him. But the question is, I believe his name is Knight, will he fall for it? Or is it Gene? I think it's Knight. I do believe the guy's name is Knight. Will he fall for it? That's going to be a question. I don't know which one it is. I don't think he'll fall for it immediately, but you never know. I'm kind of wondering where is Uemura and where is Gunjer? What are they doing? I kind of wish they showed them as well. Maybe as a tag team. I would like to see Gunjer and Uemura as a tag team. Yes, I know you're going to say, well, you're sticking the stereotypes, the foreigners together. Look, I never said it was right to do it, okay? I'm just saying you got to give them something to work with. Something to begin with, and then build character on top of that. Uemura is trying to get over as a young lion, and Gunjer is trying to get over as an Indian wrestler. Both of them are new. Both of them are trying to get over. Stick them together for a little while as a tag team and try to help them to build their characters. It's got to be something. Rosemary and Jessica still want to get into the undead realm looking for Taya, but they still can't get in. So we got Crazy Steve coming over, button heads, and I believe I got a shot of it. It's in my face. You got them together. But Steve says there may be only one way you can get back. Did you try everything? She said, yes. Did you try every one? She says, only the desirable ones. And he said, why not Father Mitchell? Father Mitchell, she does not want to deal with, but she has no choice if she's trying to look for Taya. Now, this is where it's going to get a little interesting. Taya, as we know, is working for AEW. Don't know if she signed a full contract for a year or multi-year. We still don't know. It might be a 9-month deal or a 6-month deal or maybe a year deal. I don't know what contract she signed. We already know she lost to Jade Cargill, which was stupid. They should have built it up and should have let her win because Jade needs to drop that title because she's ready to move on and grow. But if she did record something beforehand she left, this will be interesting how they're going to set it up if she's going to be involved. Kaz, I'll put that as the last thing. But the final match of the night, Deonna Purrazzo versus Taylor Wilde for the title. These two can wrestle. They're great wrestlers. And I can tell you, it was not a bad match at all. The majority of the matches here were not bad. I mean, Threat with Sparks was okay. But this was the best match of the night, flat out. Let's make it clear. This was the best match of the night. I know Jordan Grace and Marcia Samovich, they would be second best. And PCO versus Raj would probably be third. Third best. I know people would probably say the Design versus the ABC, but give it to PCO. Because what they did was a lot more dangerous than what the Design and ABC did. But this was a very good match. In the end, we did get a Purrazzo win by tap out or submission. And we got Kylan King, who looked really nice. In her new persona, wearing the clothes she wears, being part of the Coven, she just has a good... You can see the characters there. I would like to see her expand on it a little bit more. But she looks good. But when it comes down to it, she beat her up. Grace came out to save Purrazzo. They shook hands, and there you go. Now, I've done the obligatory... I've done the review. Well, almost. I'm going to add in one last segment in the review to rant. Get ready. You better get ready, baby. This is going to be a few minutes. I might just go past 30 minutes and have to add more. Because I don't know how pissed off I'm going to be once I start. You see Kaz in my face with Gia. And he talks about how Impact was when he first came in and what was the major part of the reason why he left. Because of how he started in the company when it was Scott D'Amore who came to him and Jeff Jarrett. And how they gave him a couple of matches and then they signed him. And how things were started with him. How he did the first time matches. And how he loved it until the politicking in the back got really bad. How people who were wrestlers were doing everything they could to keep their spot. And the people in management were doing everything to keep their spot and messing up the company. And in 2014 they decided to leave. Now, we understand that there's going to be a part 2 to this. Now, they could be making this into a storyline, or this is actually someone decided that this should be aired because we need to be a little more honest because of what's going on right now. I can't tell you which one it is. My guess is it'll be part of the storyline because they wouldn't normally just explain why a guy had to leave because of how the company ran and showing Dixie Carter at one point. That is how it went. But the reason I left this as last is because of what I'm flashing in front of the screen right now. I have no idea how many images I'm throwing in my face. I took quite a lot of them. From the first match up into at least maybe the last match, they may be still flashing in my face. I don't really care if you see my face. I'm telling you right the fuck now. This was unwatchable, this show. Practically unwatchable. You barely saw what was going on in the ring. We got some good vid packs. We got some good backstage segment other than the fuzziness when, I believe the guy's name is Knight, with Kenny King, started being fuzzy because the cameraman was bad. This show, I think maybe now it'll be gone. I'm telling you right now, when it comes down to it, it doesn't matter at all. If anyone says, well, they don't have the budget like AEW, or WWE, or MLW, or New Japan Pro Wrestling, or Pro Wrestling Noah, or MLW, fuck that. This is not about budget. If anybody thinks this is budget, you're wrong. Watch. This is what they were doing. You know how they can fix that? It's not $500,000 that's needed. It's not $300,000 like one person left a comment because of the camera work before. It's this. Simply someone zooming the camera lens back because the lens was not fixed. It was just like this. This is management. I don't care if the cameramen were from Canada, Puerto Rico, America, Russia, or from Mars. It don't matter now. I know what the situation is. Management caused this. Even if the cameramen decided on their own, because there were 3 cameras, we had 2 cameramen on the flanking sides of the ring, which had not maybe a foot or 2 foot or 5 foot. They had nearly 9 feet of space between the ring itself and the crowd in the venue. They had at least 9 to 8 feet. They were longer than the people. They could stack them 2 or 3, and they would reach from the ring all the way to where the fans are. That's how big it was. This was an unwatchable show with good wrestling. It was practically good, solid wrestling. From what you could tell, if you could tell from all those images I showed, you couldn't barely see anything of the damn match. At one point, we saw Deonna Purrazzo's ass. Here it is. It's my fucking face. Deonna Purrazzo's ass. Here's Jordan Grace's tits. I got a shot of that. I know I did. What is wrong with them? This is management. I don't care if it's Jimmy Jacob. I don't care if it's Lance Storm. I don't care whoever it was. I don't care if it was freaking Gail Kim being a lesbian and wanting to see asses of men, or bisexual and wanting to see asses of men and women, or even Scott D'Amore. I don't care. Whoever is running the production of how they tell the cameramen to film, because it was a feed directly from the cameras into where the production area is, and they recorded it. They can tell the cameraman what the hell to do. Or they tell the cameraman, do it any way you like. It doesn't matter. They have to tell them what to do. They have to tell the man who's on the hard cam like this, or the 2 men who were doing this on the sides of the ring, or even the sky cam overhead. There is a 4th one, but they didn't show it as much. For some reason, they stopped doing it. For some stupid reason, if they're so worried about getting enough action in the ring, they could have used the hard cam, and they could have used the overhead sky cam that's on a crane to do the work. If they know that the cameramen on the sides are inept, stupid, and are so foolishly incorrigible, they don't listen. If every cameraman was making their own decision, fire their asses. Who cares if they have ironclad contracts? One of the reasons why Impact is not popular is because if they're doing this, who the fuck is going to watch what's in the ring? Why the fuck would you? Honestly, I have been a fan of Impact since I got the DVD set in 2007, around 2008 to 2009. I had a biopsy on my hip. I'm going to say this right now in my own life, how I got my DVD set and then started doing this. In 2008, I found out I have a condition called synovial condymatosis, a very rare condition in the hip socket that happens left or right, where literally you lose all fluid in your hip and it becomes cartilage. It's not a condition where it becomes tumor. Very rarely ever becomes a cancerous tumor. It doesn't. It's very rare, and I don't have it. I've been examined already. I'm fine. But I can never use my hip. And when I had a biopsy to find that out, and surgery, I had to go to physical therapy. Not far from where I lived, there was a DVD store, one of those mom and pop stores. And they had the 2005 Genesis. Or was it 2006? 2005 or 6. With Samoa Joe with Kurt Angle. I still have that DVD set. I know I also bought another one. I think it might have been 2007, but I think I gave it to somebody. I still have that. I literally ripped my DVD and put it onto my drive. And once in a while I throw it on because that was one of the best matches I've seen from Impact Wrestling when it used to be called TNA. I never saw it because I had no cable at the time. Only thing I had were DVDs. I couldn't afford it. I had very little money for my job and a lot of student loan bills and child support to pay. I had to do what I had to do. Now fast forward to when I started my channel, 2012. I'd already been watching Impact Wrestling for 2 years when it was still TNA. I decided in 2012 when I found I had hypertension due to the fact I now know I have depression with anxiety. I get anxious. It gives me hypertension. I started doing these videos in the hopes of learning how to cope with stress. I've done WWE on and off. I've done National Wrestling League. I have done reviews for, I did maybe one for New Japan Pro Wrestling's episode, I believe. One episode of New Japan Pro Wrestling, and that was just a match between Will Ospreay and Ricochet when he was there. I have done, I believe I just said reality wrestling, but just in case I didn't, I did reality wrestling multiple times, MLW multiple times, and no one's done reviews of them. I've done reviews on shows that most people never see normally being reviewed. But the one I did the most constant of, taking away when I didn't do SmackDown, I stopped. Didn't do Raw, I stopped. Didn't do NXT, I stopped. I've done constant Impact almost every week for nearly 11 years almost. Yeah, 11 years. I'm one of the few that still does it. I love Impact. I freaking love the company. I loved how the knockouts have been over the years. They messed up a couple times, but they got that right. When it comes to the main title, the X Division, and the main tag titles, I have done reviews for them. But this is the worst show I've seen in a while. I don't care because they're in Canada using new cameramen. You have people who run production. They tell them what to freaking do. How can you be that so stupid not to see what you are recording and not tell people outside who's got earpieces, the cameramen who got earpieces? How can you tell them, keep doing this, keep doing this? That is the most stupidest thing. This is going to be a big mess because we now know, guys, one of you already said it, but I already knew from when it came to JD that Trinity Fatu, formerly known as Naomi Knight, has now decided she's going to Impact. What did I say? I was one of the few people who would realize that she would probably go there. One of the few. One of the freaking few who knew there was a possibility she would go there. If it wasn't AEW, it was going to be Impact or New Japan Pro Wrestling. I had a feeling she might. And I checked out JD and Jesse when it came to Dynamite. When JD revealed that Naomi was going to go to Impact. And he was joking around and said, God, who's going to watch Impact? Who's going to watch Impact? I may watch Impact. And Jesse said, I'm going to watch. And he said, I may watch. But who honestly watches Impact? Who? But maybe they watch now. Really? Who's going to fucking watch Impact Wrestling for Trinity for Two? Who has headlined WrestleMania for the women? Headlined it. With Alexa Bliss. You can say a lot about Alexa, but Naomi headlined. She was champion. She headlined it for the women. Wasn't the last match of the night, of course. But when it came to the women there, she was the one that did it. And now she's heading to Impact as Trinity to Fatu. Probably not Trinity Star, but Fatu. And we get this. If anybody decides to show this to Impact, tell them to go at the end of this video after the review that I've done. And I'm going to say this to you guys. I don't personally care. This has been recorded several weeks in advance. Whoever was running your production, they should be fired. I don't care if it's one person, two, or three. Either reprimanded, suspended, or fired. How can you honestly, whoever is running Impact, how can you honestly say that you care about your fans when the people in the venue get to see everything that's going on in the ring, but people at home are watching all those images I threw? Look, I'll throw a couple more in my face. The same ones. This wasn't something that was just handpicked. It happened a lot. Not to one match, but all of them. You cannot justify that. WWE, AEW, MLW, New Japan Pro Wrestling. I'm sure Pro Wrestling Noah and NWA would not have camera work like that. And yes, NWA is a small company. MLW is a smaller company. When it comes to New Japan, they have a different style, but at least they let you see what's in the damn ring. So does Pro Wrestling Noah. So does WWE. So does AEW. It's not about how much money you have. It's about how you make sure they do their job when they're at the site of the venue. This is wrong. This is right. You can see me. This is not hard. In fact, when Jeff Jarrett ran the place, he made sure the camera work worked, whether you like him or not. But this is just me, who is still freaking pissed off at an unwatchable show. If you think I'm wrong, look at all this. Well, actually, you shouldn't even look at highlights, because whoever makes the highlights on YouTube, you're going to watch and see. They're not going to show all the parts that's unwatchable. They'll only show generally the parts that you can see. But if you do watch it, you'll see at least one or two times when the camera is so close, you're either seeing a person's face or the breast or whatever. Peace.